Okay, well, welcome everyone to this meeting of the virtual IMS user group. Thank you for joining us today. I'm Trevor Eddles. I'm CEO of iTechEd Limited. We're a mainframe consultancy, analysis and technical authoring organisation. And we're responsible for the content on the virtual IMS website, and we produce the newsletters. And if you're not sure where our website is, you can find it at itech-ed.com/virtual IMS. And if you have colleagues who use Kix, we also look after the virtual CICS user group. So first of all, let's run through the agenda for this meeting. As usual, most of the meeting will be taken up with a presentation. And today our guest presenter is Thomas Esser, a Rocket Software zSolutions architect/director in EMEA. And his talk is called Saving CPU Time with IMS Database Administration, Optimize Workload Performance with IBM IMS Tools. And a copy of the slides from this presentation will be on the website, probably later today, definitely by early tomorrow morning. And if you've missed any of our previous meetings, you can download copies of the presentations from our website. And you can also listen again to them. There'll be links on our resources page. Following Thomas's presentation and any questions you have for him, we'll move on to the latest IMS news and latest IMS related articles. Feedback request is there to remind me to ask you for your feedback about this virtual meeting. And then I'll give you the dates and times for the next couple of meetings. So that's the plan for this meeting. I'm anticipating that it'll last for around 45 minutes, something like that. Anyway, as I just said, today's presentation is from Thomas Esser. Thomas focuses on pre- and post-sales technical assistance for Z system products from IBM. Previous positions in his professional career have included CompuWare, IBM Germany, Precise, BMC Software, and DevK. He's a regular presenter at GSE and university high schools, particularly focusing on new IMS and IMS tools features and their implementation. Thomas has 36 years working with information technology and is based in Cologne, Germany. So, Thomas, I'd like to thank you very much for being with us today. And what I'd like to do now is pass control of the meeting over to you. So let me stop sharing and do that now.
Okay.
Right, you should have a message on the screen.
Yes. I'm going to share my screen. Hold on a second. So here it is. I hope you can see my screen. Is that correct, Trevor?
That's all good. Yes, thank you.
Okay, thanks. So welcome to everybody. I'd like to introduce myself a little bit before I go ahead, and most of the major topics are already mentioned by Trevor. And if somebody of you counted the years I'm working in the IT business so far, yes, I'm getting older every single year, and another thing is also very true. Even if you work in an IT department in whatever the area is, if you're a DBA, an IMS Sysproc or whatever, year by year, you are falling back into what I count some habits and some procedures, some well-known procedures, and the other word for this is the well-comfortable zone. And so what happened was, if you work in your closed room, especially nowadays with all these COVID and the pandemic situation, is that you have time to do some other things you haven't had the time before, because you can think a lot of things what you have to do in your shop or what you did in the past. Maybe you try to clean your desk, maybe you try to clean this and this, and there's one point or one thing that comes on your desk every single year, again and again and again, it's the question of how is your system performing today? How are your applications running? Are they well tuned? Did you have looked on all the parameters you can use with the tools you have implemented and using all the day by day? So this is a question that is always coming up year by year again, not only now. And my presentation today is something as a reminder. I like to remind you for some of the topics you can do to make your IMS system performing better every single day. And this is the easiest way to do this is looking on your procedures, looking on your jobs, looking on your statistics, looking on your parameters you have defined. And sometimes it's also good to start a discussion with your DBA or with your sysproc or with your colleague in other departments to get some information about what they would have done or what they are looking for. Okay, let me start. So IMS is still a core platform for daily business. You all are working in this area. You know the numbers of transactions running each day, and you also know that a healthy IMS system and the data are mission critical in your shop. And this is true for IMS-DB, for IMS Transaction Manager, and the ETO component. And you have to manage today's IMS systems, and to do this, it requires some procedures, some tools to cover the performance and efficiency, to implement autonomics and automation, to run analytics, and to make it ease of use. And today, I like to cover this topic about performance and efficiency, just to give you some hints and tips what you can do to make your system running better. So the efficiency of tools versus utilities provided by IMS is, the major part is to reduce the MSUs for database maintenance task. If you look on the utilities, they are coming with IMS, and you know from the past or from your beginning when you started your career as a DBA, as an IMS sysproc, that the tools they are coming with the subsystem itself are not very efficient. They are doing their job, yes, they are running. Yes, you can do an unload, you can do a load, you can image copy your database, you can recover it by using all these utilities coming with the subsystem. But to get a better performance, you have to look for tools doing all these jobs better. And like other vendors, IBM has a huge set of database tools and a huge set of analytics tools or performance tools for the IMS subsystem, for each of the components, for the database and for the transaction manager. And what you can do with all these tools is database unload to improve the database performance, export the data for use in other applications or analytics, database load, improve the database performance again by loading faster, database image copy, needed for backup and recovery. And an also very important point is index building. With a clever tool, you don't have to image copy your index databases. Maybe these are very common stuff, or it's very common stuff for you because you're doing this for many, many years. But again, go back to your procedures, go back to your jobs and look if you have used all the parameters. Are they still in the same way when you started running or creating all these tools or procedures? If you go back and check some of the parameters, maybe you found a new one coming with a newer version of one of the tools. And in addition, some of the tools are able to use zip processors. If you have zip processors installed in your system or in your environment, are you using them with the tools? Maybe not. So check this. And the IMS high performance database tools coming from IBM, sometimes they are available as a standalone product, like the high performance unload, the high performance load, the high performance image copy, or the index builder. Or if you look for the solution pack, and because many of all these utilities, you need to run a reorganization or a recovery for a database, they are in a package. And the database solution pack, for example, you can use it also to run offline reorgs or online reorgs with the database solution pack for the US. The other one was the database utility solution pack. For fast pass customers, I know that especially in Asia, many customers are using data entry databases, and there's also a solution pack available with all the tools you need to run a reorg for those databases. Go to the next slide. Oops. Another topic is a unique value is to improve your productivity with a single job step. You can reduce MSU consumption, very important in our shops today, because everything is going faster and jobs never change for a long time. Again, you have to check the parameters. Are you using all the features, all the functions coming with the tools? Did you ever install an online reorg job? If not, look for it, because it's very easy to implement it by using tools coming with a database solution pack, for example. And what all these solutions are offering to you is that you can run this in a single job step, what I mentioned already. And you can avoid extensive IOs by each of the standalone utilities because the data are passed in memory between each of the steps. So imagine that you unload the database and you forward the unloaded part directly into the load utility, or you pass the information to the index utility or to the secondary index utility to create an index database, or to pass this information to the image copy part of this procedure. So a lot of things you can look, and you can reduce MSU consumption by using features and functions. And again, zip offload is also a topic you have to look for. Another part, very important part, is your buffer pools. I remember the time when I looked for the buffer pool. It's a long time ago, and maybe that you haven't looked for your buffer definitions also, if you remember when you looked at it for the last time. So there's also a very important part, because in the discussion I have with some customers, this is something they didn't think about today, because somebody did the definitions, and as long as you don't run into major problems, you don't look for it. But if you go back again, check your buffers, look how your buffer pools are defined, the number of buffer pools, the sizes of your buffer pools. And I remember also that some sysprocs, what they did, because at the time when they created the buffer pool definitions, they didn't know exactly how many buffer pools they used. They didn't know exactly what sizes they were using. And to be sure, to be safe, they defined more than they need, or they defined different sizes. And check if you're using all these buffer pools you have defined. And if you see that the numbers of buffer pools could be increased, check it. And this can also easily done with a tool like the IMS Buffer Pool Analyzer for the US. And this is a tool that is also available as a standalone product. So again, sometimes it's very simple to check and to do what we call continue tuning a database by looking at the characteristics and change it over time. Again, maybe you didn't look for it for a long time. For test reasons, especially application developers, they like to run jobs, or they like to test new coded applications or changes they are doing in their own environment. And it is not that easy to create a set of test databases, or to create their own test environment. And again, a tool can help to cover this. And the IMS cloning tool, for example, is a tool where you can clone subsystems, or you can clone databases just for test reasons. And to be on the safe way, you have also the option to mask the data during the cloning process. That is important, because if you like to test with productional data, you're not allowed to read the exactly data like customer name, like banking balances, or whatever the information in your data sentences are. So with masking all these data, you can use the production data in your test environment. And so your security is could be done with masking. The other thing is fast replication technologies are supported by this cloning tool. That means that whenever you have a fast replication technology installed in your shop, this tool is able to use it. And reducing of MSUs, again, very important here by using these fast replication technologies. And it's very efficient combined with traditional methods and like image copy or recovery or index rebuild. This is what customers are using from time to time to create test environments by using the traditional tools like image copy and recovery. But again, with the IMS cloning tool, you can save MSU consumption and check it. Another topic is task reduction or avoidance. I mentioned it already that index building is something that is used very often, especially if you reorganize a database or if you are going to create new index databases for a given database, or you have to change the index of your database. And instead of running procedures to create the index database all the time, it's much easier to have a tool like the IMS Index Builder, for example. This is available as a standalone product again, but it's also part of some of our solution packs, and you see the solution pack names on the right-hand side here. So what it does is you define your index databases within database recovery control or DBRC that you don't have to image copy an index database. And by doing this, whenever you run a reorg, it's much easier and it's much faster to create the index of these databases with the IMS Index Builder than reorganizing it with the traditional utilities. And it's very simple to implement, and it's very efficient. And the other topic is that's here on the left. I pointed out as a special topic here that is true for HAL-DBs, that the pointer healing consumes MSUs and prolongs DL1 call. And again, during a database reorg, by using clever tools, you have much better procedures available to avoid that these pointer healing consumes too much MSUs, so by reducing them. Conditional database reorganizations. That is also something you can look at, because to eliminate MSU consumption for database reorganization will add you a lot of value, because ad hoc scheduling is whenever you need to run a database reorg based on the information you will get with clever tools is much more efficient than doing it by reading analytics, doing it by, let me say, on a regular basis, because that's what I did at my beginning, that we know that a special database got updates over the day, and we also had a procedure to say, okay, if we have updates every single day, it should be very good to reorganize the database by end of the week. So what we did is, I'm very sure that we reorganized databases useless. That was wasted time because the changes were not that much, or the structure was exactly the same like before. And with clever tools, you can analyze your database and you get a very good suggestion if this is a candidate to run a reorg or not. And you can define some of the rules where you have to run the analytics with, and to say, okay, this is a candidate I have to reorg. And this technique is available with the Database Reorganization Expert tool. And this is a tool that's also available as a standalone product, or it's part of the IMS Database Utility Solution for ZOS, especially here for offline reorgs. And there's also another tool, that's the IMS Online Reorganization Facility, and this is available within the same pack I already mentioned before. That's the IMS Database Solution pack. FastPass is also covered with this solution, and again, to eliminate MSU consumptions by running less reorganizations is very efficient. And what you see here on the button is that we have some customer experience, and they gave us a feedback that they had a reduction in IMS database organization by 85%, and just of the criteria coming with the default definitions for this product. So it's very efficient to look or to run these with clever tools. Go to the next slide. And backup recovery methodology. The IMS image copy for the OS is a tool to run backups. And there's also an option within the tool to run a recovery on a very simple way, but we suggest to run the recovery with the IMS Recovery Expert for the OS. And both tools are available again in the Recovery Solution Pack. And what you will get is you will get fast application technologies to reduce the MSU consumption. And this is something you see in all my foils, because all the tools have functions, parameters available. They give you very, very good features in your hand to reduce the MSU consumption. And again, what I mentioned at the beginning is recheck your procedures, recheck all the parameters, and look if they are still valid, if they are still true, if they're using all of them, and look if zip offload is supported or not. Another thing that's more efficient is the system level backup. With this, you can reduce the frequency of image copies for each of your databases. You can look for a full IMS system or for data only. You can handle multiple IMS systems. And again, also here, by using the fast application technologies, you can reduce your MSU consumption. Checkpoint processing. The IMS Program Restart Facility, this is a tool. It's available as a standalone product that eliminates the consumption for unnecessary application-driven checkpoints. Whenever an application programmer has to run a checkpoint processing, you can do it with this tool in a much easier way, because based on customer specified options, you can handle your restart procedure. And by giving checkpoints, and there are different checkpoints available you can define. And the reason here is to do this is if you run too many checkpoints, or if you run too less checkpoints, or if you don't take them too frequently, just by changing all these parameters, you can check if you are consuming too much system resources, and just by changing one of the parameters, you will see how many MSU consumption you can save just by checking your parameters from time by time. Okay. Another very good point is to look at if you have clever tools to get statistics about your system. And the IMS Performance Analyzer is a tool that also the people from the IBM support are using. And if you send them data because you want to, or if you need support because of a bad performance, or you don't know where exactly the problem is, sometimes you get asked by sending a log data set, and the IBM support team is using the Performance Analyzer to analyze the data you sent to them. But instead of sending, you can do it on your own. And what you can do is, this tool creates a lot of reports, and a lot of default reports are coming with the tool to understand where is your MSU consumption. And you get a summary or detailed reporting. You can customize your own report. You get samples. They are available in a special library you can use for your reporting. And just by looking on the numbers you will get from your own system, from your own transactions, from all the accesses to your database, you get a very good knowledge about what's going on in your IMS subsystem. And the Performance Analyzer, again, is a very, very strange tool with all these reports to analyze. And what are you doing with all these informations coming from the Performance Analyzer? There are other tools, and like the Problem Investigator, for example. And this tool is also a very useful tool to look what happened. So if you look in your log data sets, or if you use the standard utilities to get some information about performance issues you get reported from the last run, it's much easier to have a clever tool just by defining a set of data sets, using an ISPS screen, get to the point where the problem occurs, get detailed information, and this is what the Problem Investigator tool is doing for you. And it's also very good to know what happened with your transaction just when it arrived the system by using IMS Connect. Some of you might know that IMS Connect itself is not very, let me say, useful in the way of what's going on. There's no log information available. There's not a very nice GUI available just to maintain what's going on in IMS Connect. And with the IMS Connection extensions part, you get log information. So you also get a kind of a front end to see what's going on here. And the combination of all these three tools coming with the IMS Performance Solution Pack gives you a very good tool to do a deep dive analysis by transaction, or to get knowledge about what is your transaction doing in the system. And that is not only for IMS, it's also a combination of log information we will get from DB2, for example, or for MQ. So very easy to understand, or very easy to look at, or to use for reporting, for example. Some customer experiences. So what I mentioned earlier in our call today is that you have to check time by time to look what are you doing, and what are the definitions, what are the procedures. And but sometimes we got also called by customers. They gave us a situation and they described a problem, and in this case here, it was a performance issue on a busy database, and this customer had this following situation. There was a single database with millions of accesses per day, and when the database was down, or when the database is down, they lose revenue, because that's a very important database. And it's also very critical to have a very good response time for this database. And so they were in trouble, and they requested IBM to run a kind of a health check just to analyze what's going on here. And so the health check indicated database not tuned properly. And what also was figured out is that the size of the database dramatically increased since the time the database was originally configured. And this is something what you see very often, that when you start, or when you created a database, business is growing. That's a good part, and also if the business is growing, databases are growing. And sometimes the restructure or the reorganization of a database is good. Sometimes it's bad, or sometimes it's you have to restructure your database. You have to look if the sizes are correctly, if the access method is still the best option you choose. And what I want to say is, you have to look on your critical database time by time, and especially in this case, if you run into problems, to look what happened, what happened here. And what we analyzed here is, by just analyzing the buffer pools and by implementing some of the recommended changes, we improved the response time for this database. And reduced IOs was also an outcome of this little tuning. And this was done by just looking at the buffer pools. And where did we get this information from? It was the IMS Buffer Pool Analyzer. this tool checked the definitions for the buffer pools, and then we figured out for this customer that we could improve the response time just by changing the buffer pool definitions. Another example was that the following situation was true, that growing IMS usage due to client growth, the outcome was increased transaction volume, database contention, batch processing times were increasing, and the architectural limits reached on existing partition databases. And the other thing was that there was a requirement in the company that this database should become a 24/7 database. So this customer was sure that the time to reorganize a database in the future is not available anymore like it was in the past before 24/7 became a reality. So we checked the database together with the customer, and by looking for the most critical databases, they got reorganized each day, and we looked for reorgs that were done regardless of need. So that is what I mentioned earlier, that they had procedures implemented that were running every single week, and they reorganized database, and they were never checking if the reorg was needed or not. And the other thing is that 30 minutes downtime per month in production, that was fact the day when we started the analysis. The final solution for this customer was to implement conditional reorg. And this procedure, what the customer is using today, is based on an automatically gathering of database information. Then the reorganizations are getting scheduled as usual, yes, but only if a reorg is needed. And the reorg only execution, if meets criteria, gave the customer the situation that the reduction of reorgs was 85%. And so this is, you can imagine, a very, very good example to save MSU consumption and to save money. And the solution for this, all the tools you need to run this are in the IMS database solution pack. This is the high performance unload, high performance load, the secondary index utility, the image copy, and all the other tools coming with this solution pack. Another example was, we had a situation that the IMS transaction manager, where IMS and DB2 databases are running in this environment, they were planning to move from a non-Sysplex to a Sysplex environment, and they also had the need to understand the impact of workload in this new environment. They had data collected for the given situation, and they want to know what's going on with our system and what is the expectation if we go from a non-Sysplex to a Sysplex environment. And the workload during these tests must reflect the real production environment by doing this analysis. And again, they wanted to know how the workload will be in the future with the Sysplex environment. The final solution here was just to replay the IMS log from a non-Sysplex production environment to a test Sysplex environment, to split and paste playback of transaction across test Sysplex. And the tool we were using here was the IMS queue control facility, just to get this happen and to get a very good idea or very good reports about what's going on in the future. So also very helpful here to check this. And this is, one of my last examples here is, and it was an example about database reorganizations. Offline reorgs were used with base utilities coming with IMS. That was the situation. And the database sizes, they continue to grow. Again, that's not a bad thing. That's good. If databases are growing, that means business is growing. But in this example here, the batch window was reduced due to business demand, and the reorgs taking longer than batch window was allowed. So there was a mismatch, and online time was increasing, batch window was shrinking, but the jobs didn't change. So here the point was to reduce the offline reorg processing time. And the final solution here was this customer is using high performance tools now for unload and load. And you can see that the times we checked is that the jobs were running 2.5 times faster, and they did it, or they are doing this with 70% less CPU time compared with the procedures they were using before. And the tools here were the high performance unload and the high performance load. So both tools are available as a standard tool. Okay. Yeah. Here you can read, there's another example for the cloning tool. And in this example here, there was the situation that two large companies, they were merging. They need to merge the workload into a single environment. And they knew that some application changes are required. And and the initial request was to develop and optimize the test environment with data creation. And all this should be done without an impact to the production environment. And and the other requirement was to keep the test environment up to date. And we were able to help this customer with copy all the production databases and indexes by using the point in time, or some companies also, you can also use the acronym fuzzy copy with tools that were available. And we were able to do this without production database outage. And the other requirement to bring the test data up to date with production via log updates was also covered. And the other thing, what I also mentioned earlier, is we included the masking of the data because of security issues. And again, that was the IMS cloning tool we used for this example here. Okay, so the resources you can look at to get informations or to get trained by yourself is that we have some hands-on labs. They are available for download, and you will see the links on the next page where you can get these informations. But I just want to point out what's available. And for IMS Performance Analyzer, there are customized, or what we say, form-based reportings available. For the IMS Problem Investigator, we have procedures available, or hands-on labs to analyze IMS and DB2 transaction problems. IMS Connect extensions, there are some Splunk dashboards available. We know that many shops are using tools like Splunk to analyze the data and to make them visible in a different manner. It looks much nicer than having an ISBF screen. For IMS Database Reorganization Expert, there are also some procedures available to run conditional reorg. Here are all the resources, the websites for the tools, for videos, or for product documentation. The IMS newsletter, you have to sign up to get this, or there's another page where you can look at for new functions coming with IMS tools, and also the tool support for the actual IMS version, and in the future for the releases of the IMS versions, and so on. So there's much more information available, and there are also some very nice videos available on YouTube. You can check for this, and for new functions there's a link. And and there's one link that's missing, but I'm sure that Trevor will show you later, because this community here has also some links where you can look at for further information if you need something to know about how to implement a tool, or how to use a tool, or how to handle problems. Yeah. And the other resource that's not written here with a link is, but we have seen it at the beginning of my presentation, is whenever you need support, let me know, send me a note, give me a call, or call your IBM colleagues. And with this, I'm on my last slide, and now you can ask questions if you like.
Okay, thank you very much. Do you want to give everyone your email address while you were here then, Thomas?
Pardon, I didn't understand. I understand only the last sentence. Sorry, can you repeat this, please?
Yeah, do you want to tell everyone what your email address is in case they want to get in contact with you?
Ah, yes, I go to my first page. Wait, oops. Oops, where is it? Here it is.
Yeah, brilliant. And if anyone's got any questions now, if they just want to put them in the chat, I'll read them out to Thomas. We've got one person saying thank you. That's nice.
Oh, thank you for joining.
Let's see if we get any more. So let me ask you a question then, Thomas. What you're suggesting is that these IMS tools are much better than the utilities that sort of come with IMS. Is that right?
Yes, that's correct.
Yeah.
And yes, I was talking about the IBM tools portfolio today, and I'm sure that whatever you need in your shop, maybe I know there are other vendors available, and but what I want to say you is that use the time to check what your definitions are, and whatever the tools are you're using, go back, look on your definitions, look on the parameters you're using. I just want to repeat it because I know that many customers, they came back and they say, yes, you don't know what happened. We changed this parameter and some things they work much better, and we were able to save CPU time. And that is the reason why doing all this. Tuning is a daily business. You can't tune just by once. You have to repeat it all the time. And I think that's my major in between the lines message, what you can do on whatever the name of the tool is.
Okay, brilliant. Yes. Oh, someone said they can't turn their mic on. No, can you type your question into the chat, please, Ralph, rather than trying to turn your mic on? All the microphones are off. So if you type into the chat, then we'll be able to see your question. Let's just pause for a second. Okay, Ralph Newber says we are moving to conditional reorg for expert and ORF. That's all is typed.
Mm-hmm.
So what was the actual question then that you're typing in, Ralph? Ah, okay. He said, when I use conditional reorg for expert and reorg is not needed, I want to be able to do a PC but cannot unless I force IC. I'm not sure I know what that means.
What I suggest is send me a note to my email address. I think with IC, that's the abbreviation for image copy, but I have to reread the whole sentence because what I understood is that you are running conditional reorgs and your expectation is different than what the tool is doing, if I understand it right. But if this is the question, send me a note and I will answer it.
Okay, yeah, PC saying it's pointer check.
Pointer
Does that
check.
make sense? Yes. No, I think we'll leave it there. I think oh, he's come back. So if I had
I
hang
don't
on, Thomas,
understand.
sorry.
I don't understand correct the question. So what I understand is that you're using image copy in combination with pointer checking, or is it that you analyze the pointer checking protocol just to figure out if a conditional reorg has to be done? So I'm a little bit confused about the question, the real question.
He's just typed in some more. So if I have a database, does not need a reorg for months. I want to be sure I have a viable database.
Yeah.
So that's what he's saying. No, okay. Ralph Newber, can I suggest that you do email Thomas with that? His email address is still on screen. I'm sure he'll get right back to you and explain exactly what's the best thing to do. Right, thanks. Yeah. Anyone else got any questions, or should we move on? No, okay. If anyone else thinks of any questions, then if you haven't made a note of Thomas's email address, then you can email me, and my email address will be on screen in a minute or two. Yeah, okay, brilliant. All right, well, let me say thank you very much, Thomas. That was great. Because we're a virtual user group, can you assume that we're giving you a virtual round of applause now? So thank you very much, and thanks for the questions. Let me just take control again. Let's share mine. Oh, oops. Okay, so yeah, thanks again then, Thomas. Let's just move on with a couple of slides. I've got some news. Direct Computer Resources, DCR, they've announced that customers still using DataVantage for IMS version 5 will get a free upgrade to release 7.1 because support for the earlier version is going to end on the 31st of August this year. You probably know DataVantage for IMS is a mainframe application testing and development software tool. There's a link to that press release on our website, so if that's something that affects you, you can find out more there. Moving on to articles and blogs, we've got more on IMS usage by Subhasish Sarkar. That's on the Planet Mainframe website. In fact, the same person has written all these articles this time. You've got an introduction to IBM IMS OTMA, which is on the Tech Channel website. And you've got understanding IMS OTMA commit mode and synchronization, which is also on the Tech Channel website. So well done, Subhasish Sarkar, because you've been the first person ever to have written 3 different articles, and the only articles on IMS that we've ever mentioned. So, as always, can I ask for feedback about this meeting? Again, you can email your comments to me. My address is on the screen, or there is a Contact Us webpage on our website, so you can use that. And also, you can use my email address if you've got any questions, because I'll pass them straight on to Thomas. So, as you can see, plan for the future. Our next meeting's on the 8th of June, and we've got Al Soritz and Gary Euler. They're both from Maintegrity. We haven't got a final title from them, but it will be all around IMS and ATMs and security and stuff like that. So that's going to be pretty interesting. And then the meeting after that is on the 10th of August. So put those dates in your diary. On the 10th of August, we've got Dougie Lawson, who you probably know from his contributions to the IMS listserv. And he's going to be talking about from legacy to infinity and beyond. Just a reminder that you can keep up to date with what's happening in the world of IMS and on the virtual IMS user group website by following us on Facebook and Twitter, and by joining the virtual IMS group on LinkedIn. The URLs are on screen now, but they're also on our homepage, which is probably easier. And if you do use social media, remember everyone likes, so like us on Facebook. And if you're posting anything, the hashtag to use is #virtualims, or one word. So that's it for this meeting of the virtual IMS user group. Can I thank you all for attending? Thanks to Rocket Software for sponsoring our user group, And of course, I particularly want to thank Thomas Esser for today's presentation. So that's it. Thank you all very much for joining the meeting, and I look forward to seeing you again on the 8th of June. So thank you very much, and goodbye.